Hi, this is Martin from Martin's Engine Services. Just thought I'd make a video about my 1955 Morris Minor Series 2 four-door. This vehicle was purchased new in June 1955, and here is the original bill of sale showing its prices and its bits and pieces. Also note the underseal, which was £11, which was an exceptional amount of money back in 1955. I have here also the warranty certificate, which did come with a quite impressive 6-month warranty, which has never been used. I don't have all the old MOT history, but I do have a fair proportion of it, and here's one certificate from Billingham Green Garage, who serviced the vehicle for many years throughout its life. A 1978 tack disc for 4 months at £18.35. Wow, happy days. There's also, I have a very comprehensive service history and very comprehensive paperwork history of the vehicle, including this beautiful document here, the buyer's guide for the car, which is quite remarkable to think that the lady who owned this vehicle for just over 46 years probably looked through that before buying it. What a lovely thing to own. So she's just coming up 95,000 miles now, and it has survived remarkably well. It has quite a lot of its original paint, including the bonnet, the roof, although it's polished through in a couple of places, the boot lid and the rear quarters, and a couple of the rear doors, I believe, are still original. It's had some bits of paintwork here and there, like this door's been painted both sides and it's a bit blistery. At some point it obviously had 4 new wings, and fortunately they have been fitted with the correct Series 2 wings, which have a much higher wheel arch to tyre clearance than the later cars. I actually repainted these wings a few years ago, so they're getting a little bit shabby, but other than that I've done no serious paintwork whatsoever. The front wings likewise were replaced at the same time, and at some point it was stored under a tarpaulin or a sheet which actually rubbed through the paint and has left this beautifully polished patina mark here, which is, it's actually quite lovely. So I leave all that. There's various chips and dings on the bonnet and bits and pieces I've touched in and just tried to preserve as much as possible. The front bumper balances are actually fiberglass, which is great because they were very prone to rusting on these, and it's a no sort of worry-free maintenance now. The Series 2 split screen car differed considerably from the model that followed it, in as much obviously split screen, different bonnet, scuttle design, the famous clap-hand wipers. Also that the wheels were slightly different to later cars and were always in body colour. And apart from the black car, all the grills were in colour, but on the black vehicle you see the grille was actually factory silver and not cream, as most people tend to point out to me. This was actually a deluxe car, which meant it came with the leather interior and the carpets and overriders and so bits of extra, and you even got 2 sun visors, which is always an extra back in the day. It does have the original semaphore signals here, which do actually work, but they are currently disconnected as I fitted indicators into the lamps. Unlike a lot of these vehicles that unfortunately have the bigger rear light fitted or another indicator crudely attached somewhere, it was horrible. I actually fitted a extra bulb into the rear lamp, so we now have the stop lights, tail lights and indicators combined in all in one. Red indicators were legal in the UK, I believe up to about 1961, something of that region, so it's fine. And I replaced the side lights with a 2-filament unit, so now it's side and indicator. They are the correct one for the year and the correct size for the wings, and it all lines up nicely. A few months before this car was made, they changed the grille, and one they had like a cheese grater grille with like little squares cut in it, which was actually, in my opinion, a nicer grille. You can retrofit it, but it does involve some slight modifications to the wings here, moving these out, and the inner wings are different. But this car, being a changeover, does have the provision on the inner wings if I wanted to do so. Most of the chrome appears to be original, and as with all this sort of chrome of the day, chrome over this sort of alley stuff, Mazak does tend to pit, but it's all still there, and it all still works. The interior survived remarkably well. The carpets aren't original, of course. The seats all are. And obviously, I've swapped the passenger seat to driver's seat. They're pretty worn, a few splits, but bearing in mind it's coming up 70 years old, you can't really grumble too much. The previous cars to this, in about 53, were still fitted with the side valve engine, and this car still retains some of the charm of the side valve engine, like the earlier banjo type steering wheel, gold painted steering column and bits and pieces, the early handbrake, the long distance magic 1 gear lever. The pedals, you can't quite see them in this, the pedals are something of an anomaly on these, whereas the brake and clutch pedal are very, very close together, and it's very easy to jump on one or both at the same time. This was changed on the later cars for safety concerns. One other great feature of it is if you put your foot down on the clutch all the way and you position your foot wrong, your foot gets hit by the clamp bolt on the bottom of the steering column as you turn in the corner. In the back door here, you can see that the rear arch panel here is actually immaculate and has had no welding at all in its life, and it's totally original. Likewise, all the interior is held up in the back very well. Things like the doors are all pretty rust free, remarkably good. There are one or two, there's a few little blisters in the door here. They've been there since I had the vehicle. I'm not too worried about that sort of thing. I've actually put it onto the original size cross-ply tyres. I know a lot of people are very anti that now and believe the radials are better, but I kind of like the period look, and to be honest with you, it drives absolutely fantastic. It's not designed to be thrown around the corner at 70 miles an hour, and therefore I think there's no real need to put serious amounts of grip. These people seem to believe that it's necessary, but that's my opinion. I like to see vehicles kept in their sort of condition with as many original bits as possible, and the odd panel that's been repainted, etc., and maybe a few bits aren't quite period correct, but it makes a nice old usable car. I don't take it out when it's wet because the wipers aren't exactly fantastic, and it does tend to leak a bit around the door seals. I have upgraded the front brakes to the later 8-inch version, which does give far superior stopping power, making it for a much nicer car to drive. Suspension and steering has obviously been serviced and overhauled over the years, but does retain all its original steering joints and front end components, and they are all serial numbered as a matching set, which is quite a remarkable feat after all those miles. It does drive very nicely, it does handle exceptionally well, and the ride is probably far superior to a lot of modern cars. Now I'm sure you've all spotted the Ford battery. One or two of my friends do rig me about this, but it's a battery, it works, and it's been in there a while. I don't think the car knows really, but I suppose I should do something about it one day, but not too worried. The engine is actually, let's say, a later 1098cc unit, which is far superior to the early 803 unit, in that it's got far more horsepower and far more torque. It makes it for a very, very nice sort of driving car. And now that the differential has been changed and improved the gearing, excuse me, this car will quite happily cruise at 60-65 miles an hour. Most of the other components in the bonnet are original, such as the radiator, which still has its manufacturing plaque on the back from the Morris radiator department, and even the original fuel pump still here with the lead seal on from factory when it was made. Starter and dynamo are all dated likewise the same, and along with the one or two other components, just like the age of the wiring and all the control box and everything, it's all still period as it was made and is all working perfectly. The screen wash was an addition sometime, I think, late 60s, something like that, when the MOT rules changed requiring vehicles to have screen wash, as these weren't fitted from factory. There's a few bits of wiring in there I added when I did the indicators and stuff, which isn't correct colours, but again, it all works, and I'm not exactly worried too much about it being a trailer queen. I'd rather have an original looking car that's had bits and pieces changed. It's still capable of being used. It's got plenty of flies squashed on the front and a few stone chips and driven around the local roads here in Norfolk, but well, it's not too much of a worry if it does get the odd mark on it, because it adds a bit more character. The gentleman I purchased it from, unfortunately, very poorly, and he had 3 cars and he was actually selling them all off. He was actually in Cleveland, Tyne and Wear, and that was his local Morris Minor Club branch. And I left that in there as a little tribute to the guy, because he loved the cars and he was sad to see them go. Such a shame, actually. He was a nice gentleman. He was only in his early 50s, and unfortunately he wasn't able to drive anymore, and he had no choice but to sell them, and this was the last one that he let go. It was bid up to quite a lot more money than I was prepared to pay on eBay, but I'd asked him lots of interesting questions about the car, and it would say it's gone above my budget at the time. And he contacted me a couple of days after the auction to say that he'd been let down, and I seemed the owner he would like the car to go to, and he made me an exceptionally good offer to me, let's say, exceptionally good price, which I immediately took up. I'm very grateful for that, because he gave me all this information with it, and he said, I think you're the person who can probably look after this car the best, which I thought was a nice thing from a perfect stranger. I don't really go to car shows as such in it. I tend to use it mostly for nipping to the shops and not errands and running about, really. I'm not a great lover of car shows, because you'll go there and there'll always be somebody who comes along and is happy to point out that you've got the wrong size bolt holding the front bumper on, or that screw wasn't fitted in that period, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm fully aware of that. And to be honest with you, it doesn't really bother me. I could just imagine the expert at the club opened the bonnet, and he saw the battery there, would probably have me thrown out of the show. I think we've all met people like that in the past, and I think I better end that there before I end up in trouble. One great thing about these Morris Minors is the parts availability situation is phenomenal. There are some Series 2 parts that are a little bit hard to find, and a few oddities that have to be got round or adapted from later vehicles, but on the whole, you can get enough parts to keep things going nicely. I know a lot of people carry out a lot of modifications of these, like fitting disc brakes, 5-speed gearboxes, and all the rest of it, but I like to drive it for its sort of period. It's got a nice sort of period charm and feel when you drive it, and there's comfy seats. Heater works very well. It's just a fun little car to drive without worrying about all the modern problems. If it breaks down, you fix it with a screwdriver and a pair of pliers, but it's never ever done so. No need to plug the ABD computer into it, and no modules to reprogram, etc, etc, etc. I didn't fit any electronic ignition. I've left it all on points because it's easy to fix. And to me, if it's simple and it works, leave it alone. If it ain't broke, don't tinker with it. The engine, when I got the vehicle, had been fitted, and it was actually an exchange engine that had been purchased from reputable companies. But unfortunately, I don't know what happened to it, but one or two parts weren't quite right inside, and there was one or two things I had to put right, which is quite surprising. I'm not going to name the company it came from, because somebody paid a large amount of money for that unit. I've subsequently sorted out all these problems, and it does run absolutely sweetly. It's a typical A-series engine, really, pretty much indestructible. Doesn't use any oil, doesn't get hot. One or two oil leaks, but then it's made in England of the period, and you can never get them leak free, but that's not too bad. This still retains the original 803cc gearbox, which was known to be quite a weak link back in the day, but I've actually adapted the 948cc internals, which does improve it slightly, and these are basically a bolt-in fit. To fit the later internals, or the later gearbox, does require modifying the floor and the transmission tunnel, and the handbrake needs to be moved, and I don't really want to start doing any major work like that to poor old girl, because it keeps it all original. And it does mean you've got a nice flat floor in there. And it all seems a shame when you start doing that sort of thing. If it wasn't in such nice condition, then I possibly would consider it, but for what I use it for, it's fine. Most of the floor underneath is still quite amazingly original. That very expensive 3M undersill seems to have done the job. And it has had a few patches here and there. And a lot of those patches were actually done by somebody who actually cut each individual piece of rust out, fitted a piece of metal in the hole, then stitched plates in with gas welding. It was absolutely beautiful who did it. I've left all this because it's of a high standard and it really is a good quality period repair. I have replaced a small section under the driver's side front floor. Otherwise, all the inner structure, inner seals and everything, particularly on the passenger side here, all totally original. And when you actually remove these seal cover plates here, which you actually bolt on, the structure inside there is all still painted black and is full of anti-rust wax, which is actually remarkable. It has had a few repairs around the front inner wings there, again gas welded patches, likewise under the back and the inner wings, usual bits and pieces. But I just like to keep it like that because I think it's all part of its history. Good old boot, you can see a few box of spanners and bits and pieces in there, and the spare wheel bird down there. Likewise, the bottom of the boot floor there is all original, and remarkably the boot lid's absolutely rust free and perfect. Again, very expensive undersill was used. It's even still got the charming little piece of chain that retains the fuel cap so you can't lose it, which is absolutely lovely. It's even still got its original factory number plates, which are actually cast aluminium and not stamped. So you see there's a somewhat large dent in the boot lid. The chap I got it from actually dropped a ladder on it, but I've left that there because again it's all part and parcel of the old girl, and I think it's part of the charm of it. I love this old car, saying it reaches 70 years old middle of next year, so that'll be quite a little milestone for it. I hope you enjoyed this video about my cherished Morris Minor. Please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye for now.